Hello again. Speck&Tech is briefly referring, so please take your seat and listen to the second fabulous lesson we have for tonight. And now I stop interviewing my sexy voice and back to my normal voice. Hello, sexy people! How are you doing? Yeah, they told me about Germany warmness. Is this the thing, right? Oh, like that. This is Bavaria. Wait, be careful. Right. So again, thanks for coming here. We're now starting with the second guest, which is live with more exciting woo, and a little bit of presentation about Celonis and stuff. If you have any question about what the hell is Speck&Tech, because I can understand that Francesco, the guy who was talking before the very long introduction at the beginning, was kind of puzzling maybe on some points. If you have any question like what is happening here, who are you, and those kind of questions, I'm available for chat later. But let's stay on the guests, otherwise it gets boring. So big applause to Alessandro, which was our bridge to Munich. And let's start with the second presentation. All right.
Thank you, everybody. So I have only one slide because all the interesting things are from manuals. But what I want to say is how this came together, because it started as sort of a joke on LinkedIn, because I'm from Trento, and I started working here at Celonis in January because in my previous job, I stumbled upon a problem that could be solved with process mining, but I didn't even know that was a thing, and that companies actually did it. Through Trento, I got to know Celonis through my professor in Trento, and now here I am working for them because the company is growing very, very fast. So actually, yes, all the things that you saw in the presentation before can be turned into a very, very interesting product for enterprises to use. And Manuel will show you how it is and how you go from there to something which is more like what you see in enterprise software. So very interesting. I want to say two things about this picture because our CEO uses the rocket metaphor to explain how we're doing, because we are in a new market. It's a completely new product that wasn't even existing until a few years ago. So what we're doing is like being on a rocket and going very, very, very fast towards some heights, exploring some space. So it's very exciting, definitely. The other reason why I chose this particular rocket, which is a Sputnik rocket from Russian origins, is because we are here because I met with Giulio some years ago, and he is working at Belka, and Belka is the name of the second dog that was sent out to space on a Sputnik rocket, so everything comes together, and that's why we're here in the end. I leave the microphone to Manuel, and it's going to be a very interesting speech.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction. So maybe before I start, what am I doing at Celonis? I'm leading the product team here at Celonis, so responsible for the product management and steering the development together with one of our founders. And before I come to the interesting part, of course, I also want to tell a little bit who we actually are. So Alessandro gave us like a short introduction. So what we are actually doing is we are building a company for a completely new category in business enterprise software. And so far we are quite successful with that. Yes. Okay. I have to speak louder. Sorry. And I think the most impressive part, or where like our marketing guys at least do their best to put as many companies on these slides as they can, is how many customers we have at the moment. So at the moment it's more like than 350 customers, all from a lot of different industries, a lot of different categories, and also the kind of data and users that we're handling are growing and growing and growing, and that's kind of the space in what we operate. And after I show the software in a bit, that's also the main thing I want to talk about. What does it actually mean that you have an amazing technology? How can you actually combine it to a software product that you can sell to companies? And also how can you actually satisfy such corporations? So it's always people are used to very ugly software in the enterprise world that makes it easy on the one hand, but it's also very hard to fulfill all their technical demands and all their requests compared to a consumer product. And we heard a lot about how process mining is working in theory, and how you in theory actually create a process graph from an event log. But what does that actually mean when you want to use it as a software in a company? So where do we actually find those event data? And for us, the main source is are the general big databases that you find in companies. So it's SAP, where you can actually store whatever you want to. Then it's a classical CRM like Salesforce. It might be other cloud vendors where you can do ITSM management and so on. But it can also be things like Jira that you might know from if you worked in development already. So it's just basically whatever you think about you do in a big company, everything is stored somewhere in a database. And what we do, we connect to those databases and we generate the event logs out of it, and then we make this information available to the users so that they can actually generate value on top of that. And now I actually want to show you how that looks in the software before I start talking about how we build it. All right. So we weren't prepared for that, or we weren't prepared that I will show the software, so that's a little bit improvised. So when you take a look at our software, what it essentially does is very similar to what we saw earlier. So we show you how does the process look like in reality. And what you see here is one of our most commonly used use cases. It's purchasing. Why is that the most commonly used use case? Every fucking company in the world buys stuff. So so we can actually apply it on all our customers. And what you see here is basically the perfect flow, how it should be like. So you see people create a purchase requisition. So that means from development, I want to have 10 new laptops because we have 10 new people starting next month. Then I request this order. In the end, our purchasing organization actually creates purchase order items as if you would order each single laptop in a basket on Amazon. Then we send that out. We receive the laptops, hopefully at some point. We scan the invoice, and at some point we also pay that thing. So that's the happy path, how we call it. And it's the perfect flow how it should kind of look like, and how we would hope that most of the process flow. The reality actually is that only like kind of 38% go in this simple and granular linear flow. And what we were talking earlier about, it's not kind of 1,000 traces that we are looking at, but we're actually looking at like millions or hundreds of millions cases that we are analyzing at our customers. And those actually don't behave like in a perfect world. So the reality actually looks more like this. So we call it like the spaghetti graph, and what it actually tells you is this is the 100% transparency. So you see 100% of what's going on in the company and what the people are actually doing in their daily work. This is always the most impressive thing that you show each CEO, and he's all, oh my god, I can see everything on my process. But actually the cool part is not this part, but that you can actually zoom out, and then step by step you have an abstracted view on what's really going on in reality. So if I want to find out what's actually the next most frequent and interesting that is going on, I can just add the second most frequent flow that we have through the process. Then I can also add the next most frequent flow. And this is actually the first one that's kind of interesting. Of course, that's demo data, so it's folding up perfectly. But what we see here is kind of we have price changes. If you're a big corporation, usually you don't negotiate the price on demand. So you have prices negotiated with your vendors. So if I'm BMW and I'm producing hundreds or thousands of cars every year, I don't negotiate each single time I buy metal how much it costs. I do it once at the beginning of the year, and then I order and order. And so usually it should not really happen that we negotiate a price or that we have to change the price manually in the end. So this is actually manual rework that the people have to do by hand on the system. So that's actually things that can be saved. And now this is all nice and good to see, but our software goes way beyond that. We can actually only show you how a process flows like. Because in the end, this is just nice to know, but I cannot really do anything with it. I could, of course, now try to find everyone that's... Did we lose contact? Okay.
That's an unexpected part of a process of a presentation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
I think we're just streaming the wrong thing, I guess. It's Giovanni's cat from his house.
But it fitted perfectly to my talk.
Sorry, my fault.
No worries. So what my point was, kind of like what can you do with such a graph? You can take a look at it, and it's nice to know that something's going wrong, but you need to relate it to actually business data to actually do something with it. And that's what you can do with our software. So we are not actually limited to showing you how the process looks like, but we can actually relate it to all the data that you have in your source systems in your company. So if we go to the example that I was just showing to you, so that we take a look at these price changes, we can actually simply select them. The data model in the background is filtered down. All the information is calculated again, and you see actually how does that relate to the rest of the data that we have in our data set. So what we could see, for example, is kind of, okay, we have the most price changes actually in these 3 months. I can select them, drill down even further, and I can actually find out what's really going wrong. So I can dive into the data I have behind the process, and I can actually find a measure to improve my process in the end. So we can actually relate the process information to business information that we find in the source systems. And that's, I would say, the most or the biggest part that's different to a traditional academic solution if you compare it to our software. And we'll go back to the slides. So I just wanted to give you like a quite short intro of what the software is doing in general before I'm talking about what is like below the iceberg of this software. So in general, why are we so successful with that is that data is actually the oil of the 21st century. So I'm not me that's saying that, that's like a quote from Gartner. And what you can see is that actually data gets more and more important. You can also just see that on which companies get more and more important. It has been traditionally, it has been like big oil corporations or more traditional companies. But now, actually, all the big players are kind of data-related companies. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook. So they are all coming from the tech industries. And this is what makes our journey so interesting. So we have more and more data sources that we can connect to. So we have IoT, mobile, and blockchain. And we have more and more ways to actually explore them. And process mining actually gives you a new way on how you can take a look at those new data types. So what is my point here? It's actually not so easy to build a software that's doing that and that's actually also bringing you insights. So making a scalable analytics software that can be used by big corporations includes way more than just like process mining, fancy analytics, and buzzwords like big data and AI. But actually behind that there's like a lot more that makes that software work on a corporation like Siemens, where actually 8,000 users are roughly using it at the moment. And I was asked by Alessandro to talk a little bit what's our journey from having process mining as a technology to a software that we sell to customers. And what I thought about is kind of these were like the 4 groups that I would chunk that in. The first thing is actually that you have to connect the technology with business value. So you have to connect process mining with an actual number that the people can relate to. They do not really care about if the process is flowing direct in one flow or if it has 3 loops in the process. They care about if they save money in the end. And that's the very first thing that you have to do. And the second thing is you have to enable your user. It's very nice that you build a technical solution, but if nobody can use it in the end, it won't sell and it won't be used in the end at all. And the third thing is also that you have to, especially if you want to sell it to a corporation, you have to provide organizational readiness. And what I mean with that is that you're compliant to security regulations. You can actually provide your large organizations and user groups, and you can do that in a way that actually not only you can manage that, but actually people can self-maintain their installations. And the last thing is actually that you have to have a clear value proposition and actually also a fast return on investment. Because as we had the question earlier, our software is fucking expensive, so the people have to get the money back at some point, so you have to get there quite fast. So with the relation to the business value, so what I'm talking here about is actually what you saw in a very short intro when I was in the software. So we have the process and the deviations on the one side, but we actually connect that to hard business KPIs. And we cannot only show them in charts, but we actually can also show them on the graph itself. So you actually can, for example, show the automation rates on top of the process graph, even though we don't have that information necessarily in the event log. And so that I'm not talking only about business stuff, I want to talk a little bit about what does that mean for the software in the background. So what we actually need to do that, like one part of our, or like the heart of the whole software is actually we have a C++ engine that's handling all the data calculations that we run. So it's on the one hand the process calculations, but also all the data enrichments that we do. So all the KPIs that we calculate on top of that. That's cool, but as we also heard earlier, the world doesn't consist of event logs. So actually event logs are not existing anywhere, to be honest. So you actually need a modular way to get the data in. So one other big part of the software is actually that you cannot only read one table, or that you cannot only read one event log, but you can actually build the data model within our software, then load that into the engine and calculate on top of it. So we do not care where your data comes from. We can just connect to all of the source systems that I was earlier mentioning, and then we calculate the process information and all the additional KPIs on the fly. This calculation also is quite nice. Sadly, not so many of our customers or the end users actually can write code to query those informations. One thing that we did to solve that is that we created the process query language. So it's no accident, it's similar to SQL, but it's like SQL on steroids. So it's actually easier to use because it has a very simplified grammar, and it actually includes all the operators that we use to calculate the process information. So we can very easily do calculations like throughput times between different activities, or also calculate KPI values on top of the process flows and process patterns. And what you saw in the end when I was showing the analysis, this is not one view that you can build on top of the data and the information we have, but you actually can customly create whatever you want to see. So what we have built with the software is more or less a development platform for our customers, where they can develop themselves, on the one hand, data models and data that they want to take a look at, and on the other hand, also analysis. So what's their view on the data that they want to see? So this is kind of the result of connecting this business information with the raw information of the event log. And another thing that is who should actually use the software. So what I was talking now about is it's very technical. So still, if you build an analysis, you have to be rather technical user. You won't be the C-level guy who's building his analysis. But I wrote here, like, who do we want to use the software? It's of course data scientists, because they have to prepare the data models. They have to create the data relations, how we take a look at the process information. It's also the business analyst who knows what's going wrong and how should it go like. But it's also the management. So it's actually everyone within the company that we want to serve with the software. And what that means is that we do not only provide this technical view on the data where you can write queries. So that's a part that I actually didn't show, but we actually show you the view that I showed in the demo, where you have a very simple UI. You can click through the process information, and you're kind of guided from like a very high level representation of the process to all the granular details. And that without having any need of technical background or coding skills to generate information on that. And the next thing is a little bit what I was mentioning was how do we be organizational ready? So how can we actually serve the largest organizations in the world? If you took a look at the companies that bought our product, these are actually the largest corporations that are out there. So it's Siemens, it's Exxon, it's 3M. So all of these corporations have in common that they have hundreds of users that should use the software, and that they have extremely high standards on data security and who's seeing what. So just one example, what you can do with the software is, actually you can define on each user which data point does he see in the end on the analysis sheet. So what you would basically build is, you build one data model that contains all the information from the whole company. You build one analysis that's generic, that's providing a template on how the people should actually optimize their processes. And then you can define on user level which data point does he actually see. Is he coming from Munich, so he only sees the Munich settlement and only the information on the Munich settlement. Is he the C-level guy? He will see all the information from the whole company. And you can do that without manually defining anything on the platform. But that's just a requirement you usually won't have if you sell it to a single person compared to a big corporation. And another thing is, of course, scalability. So I would say that's also the biggest difference if you compare our software to BROM. It actually doesn't break down after 10,000 of cases. So what we are handling is actually millions and hundreds of millions of events. And we are doing that not only in one event log, but we are doing that with around 500 if you take a look at our biggest use cases. And all that is running actually in one installation, and it's still working. So and the last thing is, what I wanted to talk about is how do you get a fast return of investment out of the software. Everything that I was talking now about is kind of, you can build a lot of stuff, you can manually configure whatever you want to see, but actually none of our customers really wants to do that. So they want to install the software and they want to use it right away. So what we actually did here is we built an app store for our own software. So what you can do is you can install the processes, so the standard connectors, and we just gather the data we need for the analysis. And you can install hundreds of analyses that directly work on top of that. And then you can start analyzing all your use cases you have in a classical corporation. So actually, you can leverage, I think the number is actually outdated, I just collected that from one old sales slide. It's way more analysis that you can use. And they are actually like a template for all industries and all categories that we find at our customers. And that comes from like the classical purchasing that we were just hearing. It also goes to like web analytics, for example. It goes to production use cases, and it also goes to very rare stuff like, yeah, I'm not sure, do we have a public transportation thing?
No,
I don't.
we have human resources, for example. That's,
okay.
That's something you don't think about usually.
Yeah. And the cool thing is actually that these connectors work on almost all of the source systems that we encounter. So we can just configure like the data sources that we want to connect. And it also includes like guidelines and best practices how you actually can improve. So the next thing that's very important is our software is extremely powerful, but people are kind of overwhelmed with what to do with it. So it's actually very important to give the people guidance on how to use that software. So similar to that, we have to connect the process information and the business information. We also have to connect the business information. What do I do with it? If I find out that I have this process deviation and I lose a lot of money, it's often a big corporation doesn't know how to change that. And what we do with the content stores, we collect the information from all our customers, similar to a consultancy, just in a more effective way, and provide objectives and measurements how they can actually improve on the processes. And that's actually almost everything I wanted to say. So I'm open to questions.
Right.
Yeah.
So thanks with the power of the technology. Thanks, that's my phone. He was texting with my sister the whole time, but that's not true, guys.
I told everyone you love them. So
Yeah, and I recommended him. If you see any text, just reply, I love you. So, as I told before, no, we don't have a slide with that. We have a way to receive questions from Trento, like this one. How much Speck is awesome again? Or is there beer and Speck later in Munich too? Yes. And all right. So we have quite an easy question just to warm up. They are asking what is a KPI?
Yeah. It's a key business, key performance indicator. So it's basically a business value that you measure yourself on. For example, net order value. So how much euro or dollar do I actually do I order at my vendors? So.
All right. So if you want to have any question like in person, you can just raise your hand. We accept also human questions, not just from a phone. And another one, which is quite interesting. They say, what does Celonis make rule the market? So what is the benefit to use Celonis and not another tool?
The biggest thing is actually that our software scales and works better. So, what you saw is like the usability. So it's super easy to generate those analysis. So even if you're not an expert, we build a visual tool to actually code. So you can actually also, if you don't know how to write queries, you can build these charts and tools. And then, so that's the one part. It's easy to analyze the data, and the other part is that we provide you this full package. So we are the only ones who actually have customers, so who have experience with like big corporations, and we are also the only ones who can provide you the knowledge on how to build a huge installation. So there's no other company out there in the world who built a process mining installation where there are 500 processes that are analyzed, and where there are 8,000 users on top of that, and also where there is actually permission management that can handle that. So I would say that's the biggest advantage. It's technology and everything around it. So.
Very cool. So if you don't have any other question, we're receiving a lot of stuff. We stay here for like a couple of hours more. If you like, are you all available for? Yes, it's so I say, what was the coolest project you worked on? It's very interesting, in my opinion.
The truth is I'm not on projects so much, so so usually I only work internally with the development team.
You have projects back there.
Yeah. What's the coolest project? Oh, no, like they're all of them in the back. They are like they're angry with me if I say it wrong.
Also as a developer, if you have something.
What's the coolest project? I would say the conformance checker we built. So like, Robert is hating me. He's the lead developer of the backend, and he hates the conformance checker because it's.
It looks like a happy guy.
Yeah. But the cool thing about that, it's kind of like it's one application within the analysis, and it's a full use case within itself. So we actually can generate a target model that we generate from the event logs. Then actually we check the conformance, what we saw earlier, and we actually give you a to-do list. What do I need to do to get better? And then you can run a root cause analysis on top of that actually relates this information to all the metadata that we have in the data model. So that's kind of as a product, that's the coolest thing I would say at the moment.
Right.
But a lot more cool stuff is coming. So.
All right. Just say the question. I guess we don't have that. She was first.
She was first.
All right.
Yeah.
Fight.
I'm fine with that. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. It was really cool, really interesting one. I have a question: is that do you think that your product will be a big disadvantage for the consulting industry? Because, for example, like for McKinsey, for BCG, they are actually doing the same thing, like to analyze the whole process of the company and then try to give the advices to the company and how to make it better. So it's actually what your product is doing. So do you think it's a big disadvantage for the consulting industry?
Scary questions.
Yeah, so yes and no. So I think it's scary for them because they have to transform themselves. So actually all the, I'm a lot louder now. So what they, so actually all the big consulting firms are our partners. So they actually use our software to deliver their services. The difference for them is actually that they have to transform how they work. So their value proposition is not anymore they have the information and they can generate it, but they are actually the experts to apply, for example, our tool and use it to improve the companies. So we are providing like a service to our customers that they can do that by themselves, but also what I was mentioning earlier, there's still a lot that you can add on top of that. So, and that's what the consultancies have to learn, kind of. So that they actually provide different kinds of services and use our software to do what they are doing even more efficiently. That's, I think, the difference.
Right, sorry, consulting company, I'm joking. Just stand up, I don't know, like, talk loudly.
I'll talk loudly.
Thanks.
You mentioned that in reality, you don't usually find detailed event logs.
Yep.
What does the data usually actually look like then?
Repeat the question.
Yeah, right. So for the people in Trento that are inside the tool that is, which is a webcam. So he asked, if I understood it correctly, what is the state of data that you find? Like how is, how bad is it? Like that's probably the question, I guess.
I think what we usually see is like two different kinds of ways how it's stored. One is the traditional SAP thing. They have a change table where they just log every change that they have in the system. The thing is, that doesn't have a leading ID, so we have to actually collect like what was changed on the thing that we want to take a look at, and then we store it in an event log. So that would be the one thing. It's one gigantic thing. There you have the information on what was changed to what at what time, and we collect that and connect it to the case that we want to look at. And the other thing is usually that we have an object, and then we have a history table to that. So we actually have per table that we take a look at, we have history tables that store the when was it created and when was it changed. The problem is that the things we take a look at, it's not stored within one table. So also for these history tables, we actually deal with 10 to 20 history tables that we then combine to one event log. So that's the good way. The bad way is they don't have any history table, and then we just start collecting that. So in some of our connectors we actually historize ourselves, and we check just each at the moment roughly 1 to 2 minutes, and we just generate these historic tables.
All right, so we have our last question, which is the last thing that divides us between all the people and the spec, which is right. So we have actually a question from Batman, which I won't read, but thank you if you're looking at us on the streaming. Batman, you're pretty cool. Which is quite interesting. It says, this is anonymous though. How concerned are the big companies about the fact that you have so much of their data? You talked about briefly during the presentation, but it's a quite interesting point. You know, if you're Mark Zuckerberg, that's something you want to listen to.
Yeah, the thing is, we only have the aggregated version, so so we.
That's what Mark says.
But we are telling the truth. And also the truth is that a lot of our customers actually have on-premise installations. So we of course provide that as a cloud service where we actually host the data for the companies. But a lot of the big corporations, they actually install the software at the local server, so they are actually the owner of the data. And also, even if we do the cloud scenario, we can also have like a hybrid scenario where actually we still host the data on premise and we only use our visualization on the cloud. So,
all right.
You don't need to give us all data.
Yeah. No, I was joking. It's just
but we're happy if you do.
The worst moment to own data, I guess. All right. So thank you very much. Big applause for our second guest.
So, I'm the only thing keeping you from getting to the spec. So
yeah, who's lying?
I'll be as quick as possible. If you're interested in what you heard, especially in the business applications of process mining and on how it's built on one hand, and also on the other hand on how it's used in real life in big corporations, you can start by, for example, signing up for a free trial if you're not a student, or if you're a student, you can sign up to the academic cloud, which is a way for you to get acquainted with the tool and with what it can do, with how it is. But especially if you really like these topics, and the fact that we're growing very, very fast makes it even more compelling for everybody. If you want to become part of this, of Celonis, just apply, drop an email to jobs@celonis.de, or look on our website, www.celonis.com, and look for open positions, and whatever interests you, just send out your application or reach out, because we're in need of talented people, and I'm sure there will be some within you. So thank you very much for being here, and now off to the Speck.
Right. You can say hello to the Trento people.
Bye, Trento. I will come back one day, maybe.
All right. Thank you very much. There's food there.
Okay. Wow, this lady's killing me. Okay, a few seconds just before eating and finish up the night. Well, what can I say? I guess it was a nice experiment. There was a kind of trouble at the beginning. We are not perfect, unfortunately. We managed to set it up. You know, this is like an open space, so people were working here till 6 something. So we had to throw them away to make Speck&Tech live. Yeah, I know. So there are always some glitches and stuff that doesn't work. We are not saying that every event will be like that. We really wanted to try it out. People want to make Speck&Tech alive around Europe, so I guess it's cool. Right before closing, as I told at the beginning, we have this raffle going on. If you are one of the donors, we will actually draft you now, or like in a couple of minutes. So if you wanna really win these tickets for the Sticker Mill Festival, you can go now to Luca. Otherwise, like in just a few minutes, I will tell you, okay, cool, this is the winner. You will get 2 tickets for this music festival in Pineto. Yeah, what else? I guess we are almost there. If you have any questions or anything else, you can approach any one of us later in the networking part. We have loads of spec and a lot of beers. It was a very hot night, I can see from your faces, and I promise it's not gonna be like that as always, but yesterday was like very cold, and now it's very hot, and tomorrow is gonna be windy, and on Sunday it's gonna be raining. So what else can you do? The weather is changing very badly recently, so you cannot do much. Luca, can you send me a message on Telegram with the winner, with the number of the winner, not the name, the winner? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, of course, this was from the people that donated tonight, but nobody tells you that you cannot donate later. I mean, like, we live on your donations. We had some cost for running these operations and to make us fly and go on space. Let me see. Oh, a bit of vibe, people. Oh, who's gonna win the music festival? Lucas, take some time. Yeah, I can tell you a joke. You know, you know that joke about GDPR. No. Who doesn't know what is GDPR? Damn, guys, you know, you never received like hundreds of emails today? Did you receive? Who didn't receive any email about GDPR today? Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's basically the new regulation taking place from tomorrow about the general data protection in Europe. So basically it means that they will the website and the companies will tell you how they treat your data and what they do with your data, and if you want to delete your data, they will allow you, or if you want to export them or save them or do whatever you want, and if they want to process the data, they need to they need to tell you. So my phone doesn't want to disclose the data of the winner, so actually, the joke was very sad, so I will tell you later. If you want to come to me, I'll tell you the joke, but it's not nice. Anyway. Vibe. Shh. Oh. So the winner is number 195, Bogdan Pop. Hey. Cool, so you're the winner of 2 tickets of Sticker Mill. Wait, first, okay. Are you into electronic music?
Yes, I like it.
Do you know Apparat?
Apparat? No.
Do you know Allen Alien?
No.
Okay, well done! No, okay, cool. You actually have like something like 30-something days from now to go on the website and to listen to these cool guys. They make electronic music, mostly techno house-ish, like very underground. It's gonna be like 3 days in the south of Italy, so feel free to get a train or do whatever. Then when you're there, you can wear our T-shirt proudly. If you wanna say a few words for being selected.
What?
If you wanna say a few words.
No, I don't know. I don't.
Can you sell me the tickets?
To say. Huh?
Can you sell me the tickets?
I don't understand. Sorry.
Can you sell me the tickets?
How much can you?
No, well done. Yeah, we have an entrepreneur here. No, it's gonna be fun. Send us a picture, okay? Cool. Okay, thank you. Get back to us later. So you have it one for you and one for your friend or somebody that you want. We will send it to Sticker Mool tomorrow, and you will get your tickets via email. Okay, cool. Okay, sorry people for taking this long. I was very boring tonight, so I guess the last thing I have to tell you is we're gonna have a very cool event in June about fintech. You know, this very hype word about financial technology, so how the banks are changing, how the payments are changing, how everything like money transaction are changing. So we're gonna talk about that. And then we're also organizing a cool event in July about cybersecurity. And if you just go on our Twitter page or on our social media, on our Instagram, whatever, you will learn more because we fucking got 2 speakers that I cannot tell you more. But like it's 2 speakers that probably number 2 and number 3 in Italy about cybersecurity. So like very high-profile speakers in July. So don't book your holidays, especially because you have some exams to do. Probably some of you. Yeah, and that's it. Final point. Get your chairs. Some of you have a degree, some of you are still students, so we understand, but you have a diploma. So stack them, please. You take them, you bring them here, next to this nice plant, okay? So we can free the audience and the room, and then we can have the spec for all the rest of the night and the beers. See ya!